The turbulent elections of 8th February 2024 just finished in Pakistan, but unfortunately again they were marred by huge controversies and what the people have been witnessing all over the world with the unprecedented irregularities, high-handedness, and for some a complete rigging of the elections. All fingers are being pointed towards the omnipotent and omnipowerful military establishment yet again, and it's unfortunate the name of Election Commission of Pakistan and the military establishment has been taken in almost every talk show that we have seen so far. In an unprecedented wave of voting right for Pakistani people, the nation has stood up and people have come in drones to give votes, and the estimated 60+% polling of the voter is expected, although the counting is not yet completed almost 2 days after the elections. Today we are going to speak to a number of people, very patriotic and concerned Pakistanis within the intelligentsia, political spheres, and the civic society in Pakistan and also overseas. We are really worried where the country is heading to and who has the right to rule, whether it is the people of Pakistan, as the social contract theory of the modern Enlightenment world states. Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, some of the top social contract theorists, they have been demanding that the government of a particular state, nation, or country must be given to the free will of the people of that area. The divine right to rule, as in Leviathan of Thomas Hobbes' famous book, where the king had the absolute power given to him or her, a king or queen that matter, was by the God, or in this case the Islamic supremacy thought process that have been transformed into democratic rules of the modern world. Unfortunately, it appears in Pakistan still the Leviathan still lives on, and the hidden hands behind all the elections, they make every single election as controversial. Today we can safely say, looking at the results, the patterns of results, the views of people who took part in this political process, and the statements and opinions of international and national media, that at best these are rigged elections, which does not have any currency in the modern world. Unfortunately, the stakeholders do not understand that this is 2024. It is the age of enlightenment. It is the age of information superhighway, where every single human being on the face of this earth has the entire world in his hand through social media, and they know what is going on. So today we're going to ask a question from Pakistanis and especially the intelligentsia: what is the way forward? Should the Pakistani nation accept these elections as a fair election and yet again forget about what happened and then go on until next time the elections are rigged and the controversies start? But at the end, it is the people of Pakistan who suffer. The country goes deeper in the economic crisis. The poor becomes poorer. The rich and powerful become more rich and more strong. And people who have been working very hard, unfortunately, have to leave as a brain drain to abroad, and also leaving behind the trail of tragedies, personal tragedies, family tragedies, and not being able to return to Pakistan that they once left. And it's only happening because the democracy was never allowed to prosper the way it should be in the modern era of humankind. Dr. Lateef, you must be looking at the results and following the rather dim news, what's happening in Pakistani elections. So we'd like to hear from you, your thoughts about the entire election process and the way forward for Pakistan now.
Thank you, Dr. Sohail. Thank you for having me on. And again, wonderful show, and you're doing a great job. Well, first of all, I'd just like to say congratulations to the people of Pakistan for coming out in large masses, and the numbers that they've come out in is been absolutely phenomenal. Although I can't remember and I'm not aware of what happened in 1971, but this is what people who remember equate it to. In fact, they say it's bigger than that, the number of votes that have been cast. We know for a fact, first of all, from various aspects of the voices of people of Pakistan, in which direction the votes were going to go. So obviously the request and the urge was always free and fair elections. So the elections went ahead on the 8th of February, and the results of people coming out was phenomenal. Unfortunately, what came out initially, well, not unfortunately initially, what came initially sounded as was expected as to what people, the way they would be voting, and it was actually remarkable, the direction. But all of a sudden, what we are hearing here in the West, in the UK, we heard that everything went blank, the internet was closed down, the whole election process and the engine and the machinery closed down, and the next morning, the results were opposite of what they heard the day before. I shouldn't be laughing. It's a very dire issue, and it's very sad, the direction in which this has gone. It's still not the end all. I think people should remain hopeful. I hope getting something good out of this. And the good thing is, because of the way the people of Pakistan have responded, and how they've used IT and how they use their own imaginative ways of communicating with one another, the voice has reached the international media, and where it's supposed to reach. And good thing is that on this occasion, it is being noticed as to what's been happening in the elections and how the voting suddenly changes, a complete U-turn. U-turn is a word that's often been used over the last few years. But if this is a U-turn, this is the mother of all U-turns.
Yeah, I think rightly said, because all the reports suggest that there has been quite a bit of anomalous procedures and protocols in this entire system. You have been, Dr. Lateef, going to Pakistan quite frequently, both as a humanitarian and as a psychiatrist for teaching and training. And what was your thoughts on the pulse of the Pakistani people, that which particular party they were favoring before the elections?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, one of the things I didn't go out to put my, to get ask people's views, but it was very obvious. It was very obvious how people were upset as to the direction, the dynamics, as to what's been happening and what's been exposed, if you like, over the last couple of years. And I don't blame PTI and Imran Khan for that. I just wonder that the people who are doing this, who are their advisors? I just wonder, because every time they do something, they just shoot themselves in the foot. I just worry for, what advice they get and the way they make their decisions. It's just dire. And talking to, I was in Pakistan just about 1.5 months ago for very much what you're saying, for training and workshops, delivering workshops in Pakistan. And I was amazed at how the next generation, those below the age of 25, 30, their thought process and how they are thinking, very much different from our generation, and very positive. And from that perspective, you can easily see what they don't want and what they do want. What they do not want is actually something that's just happened. What they don't want is something that's been happening over the last at least 2 to 3 years, or 2 to 2.5 years, 2 years at least. That is what they have not wanted, and you can feel that. And when you talk to them, people are, doing a running away from Pakistan. There's a lot of people who do not want to stay there. A lot of bright minds, and the future of those people who wanted to stay in Pakistan when in the previous years things were changing, but unfortunately now they've again changed big time. So the pulse, if you like, was that people were looking for a change. They wanted to move away from how Pakistan has been run for decades, and some of the things that have been coming out and openly now known which we had suspected. The next generation, and I'm still hopeful, the next generation want to make a change, and I'm sure they will make a change.
Well, you as a community leader and the leader for the Pakistani doctors in the United Kingdom would be interacting with a number of medical and health professionals. And do you think the outcome of this election as they stand today, has it deepened the hopelessness in people in Pakistan, and are we looking at another brain drain wave coming up?
Well, I hope not. As they say, hopelessness is a sin, and I find Pakistanis a very resilient nation, and I find the generation that's coming through very resilient, and I see them very vocal, and I see them being open. I don't think there is hopelessness. I think there is hope, despite all the issues going on. I still think there is hope, and people feel that there is hope, which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's really encouraging to see that such a resilient nature of Pakistani people, for despite all the difficulties and challenges they have. Now we are here at a crossroads again. The election results haven't really yet been completed, and still there are rumors of the third party or the foreign hand or a military establishment. Do you think that this entire kind of reconquista of a particular political party and gaining the majority seats, even though under the independent candidate's name, do you think it augurs well for the youth of Pakistan?
Sorry, I got disconnected there, so I didn't get the
I see.
complete question, Dr.
Okay,
Qureshi.
yeah, no worries.
If you could just...
yeah, sure. So I'm sorry, I apologize for this technical glitch, but I was saying that as these the election results stand at this moment, it appears that a particular election party, which is PTI, although under the name of independent candidates, shows that still they are leading the polls in terms of about 100 seats, I think, out of 265, and still about 10% more votes to be decided. Do you think it augurs well for the future of Pakistan?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the people have spoken, and I think let's leave everything aside. I think if we are looking at hope, I think what we need to think about is let's move on from what's happened. For the sake of Pakistan, for the sake of Pakistan's future, its economy, it's, for the youth, we need to restabilize. And I think if this current voting and how things have been in this election is not used as a springboard, then that would be a huge worry. The people have spoken, and I think this is the hope that people who are in power in the higher ends of the creme de la creme, if you say, in the offices of power. I think this is a big message for them, and I hope this is a wake-up call that this is the future of Pakistan. There's no other way, and there may be other things that may occur which to give hopelessness to people, but I don't think it's going to work anymore. There is going to be something has to give at some stage, and I think this will be, I hope so, a watershed moment, a crossroads, and a springboard for better things to come.
Thank you, Dr. Lala Rukhan, and joining us. You must be watching very keenly and very with anxiety, I would say, what is happening, the election results and what's happening in Pakistan. As a community leader and somebody who has been going to talk about these issues in your own little circle of Pakistani doctors, you must be very much worried what's going on and what's the future of Pakistan. So your opinion, Lara Khan.
Assalamualaikum, Sohail. Thank you very much for having me on the program. You're doing a great job. Obviously, what is happening in Pakistan is quite worrying. And on one hand, it's brilliant that it's a democratic country. We've had elections. The point is to make sure that it's democratic and free election. As Shad previously said, the congratulations to all the people of Pakistan who, in spite of all the security concerns and issues that were happening and the cold weather, they came out in masses to cast their vote and let the country know who they want to be their next leader. And I hope that process is carried to fruition and the correct mandate of the people is done, and the correct people are made sure that the election result is according to the demands and the requirements and what the people want.
Lala, you living in United Kingdom for a long time, and which is called the mother of democracy, and obviously you must have traveled widely and to see the fruits of democracy in the Western world. From this standard and what we hear in Pakistan are two stark, realities. Uh, how do you reconcile with this, that the kind of a democracy that we see in Pakistan to what a democracy should be? How do you think they do compare still in 2024 and in the age of enlightenment?
Well, first of all, Pakistan is a developing country. So there's a big difference between a developed country and a developing country. And we can't compare the two. But, and also like Pakistan is relatively a very new country, even though it gained independence in 1947, it's still a relatively new country. You can't compare the two, but obviously even in a developed country, there are issues with the democratic process, but at least the elections are fair, and everybody has got the opportunity to portray their electoral party. The leaders are able to give their mandate, what they want the country, how they feel the country will progress. I think that's where Pakistan at present is lacking, where certain parties are not allowed to say what they're going to do or be able to run a fair election. But I hope, and I have very strong views about not giving up hope, and I think people of Pakistan are the same. You have to remember there is a lot of 40%, I think, is illiterate in Pakistan, and by improving the education system in Pakistan, the literacy level improving would improve the country furthermore, and inshallah it's going in the it's going to be better and better in the future. We can't lose hope.
Well, I'll take you on to this myth of fair and free elections, because all the reports in the national and the international media say the opposite. And also about this developing country. I mean, for how long Pakistan has to be, or any country has to be, developing country, 75, 76 years old. But I take your point that it is democracy is in its infancy, so to say. But there can be a leapfrog jump from one stage to another, only because there are democratic model available. One thing which is lacking is the transparency and accountability. And when you see so many stories coming up of how these elections were, by some, rigged or stolen, what do you make of them?
So again, at this point in time, we are not in Pakistan, so we have to be careful about how we kind of reflect and comment on this process. It's actually the people in Pakistan who are the ones who have to stand up and kind of raise their voices. The power of the people is the most important thing, and if, as has been portrayed in the media, not only in Pakistani media, but also UK, European Commission also commented that there has been claims about not being a fair election. I think the only people who can make a difference and make it turn around is the people of Pakistan themselves. From what we have heard, it does appear that there has been an issue with the validity of the results, because the initial results were different, and then there was issues with how the process was continued. So I think that is important to be looked into, to make sure that we can restore the faith of the people and the faith of the country in the correct process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Lala Khan. You're a busy professional and giving your opinion. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. And I would like to just say, Qaid Azam said, faith, unity, and discipline. These are the three things that the people of Pakistan have to work on, remember. My message to all the political parties is to work on that, work together, make the country stronger. It's got a lot of potential. It's one of the wonderful countries that you can belong to, and we need to make it move forward and move from being developing to developed, and make people, for us, to be proud to be called Pakistani.
Thank you, Waqar, for joining us again. And we had this technical difficulty. And we have also been joined by Dr. Usman Khan, who has been the president of the APS UK, that's the Pakistani Doctors Organization. Waqar has been the eyewitness to the recent elections, and we were actually, before you joined, Dr. Khan, we were just going to ask him how he saw the elections and this myth of free and fair elections. Waqar, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Qureshi. I'm almost 60. I've voted since late 80s. And this was the first time I was involved in the polling, start from the polling till the counting, and then going to the returning officer. And I was shocked what really happened in these whole three phases. The polling went fine. At the time of the polling, the presiding officer of the polling station gives a Form 45, which actually depicts the number of votes casted, rejected, and each candidate's votes are mentioned on that. And a copy of that Form 45 is handed over to every candidate's representative who is present at the polling station. And it is signed by the presiding officer and the senior most assistant presiding officer. And then the presiding officer is supposed to take it to the returning officer, which is famously called the RO. And the RO is just a place where simple mathematics is done. All the polling stations send their presiding officers, submit their Form 45, and he just has to calculate, do a simple mathematics, put it on Form 47 in the presence of the representatives of the candidates. We were the representatives. We went to the returning officer office. We were not allowed in. We were there till dawn. And then when we were asked by the police to just move out, not even stand there, and we had to come back and to our main office. But unfortunately, our system is perfect. Just the implementation is wrong. All the Form 45, which were of that particular constituency, are available with each of the candidates. The copies of that are available, and those are copies which are made, the old concept of Pakistan, the carbon copies are made, which are signed, and even the thumb impression is over there of the presiding officers, which they are officially nominated, and the senior most assistant presiding officer. And if you can do the mathematics even at your home, they were the constituency I was looking into. It had 176 polling stations, men and women, for males, and then the total was done, even in the office. But when the result came after 48 hours, it was completely different. The candidate, being an independent, received more than 50,000 votes according to those Form 45s, which was signed by the presiding officer and the senior most assistant presiding officer. But the returning officer issued a new Form 47, which is supposed to be just the sum totaling of that, with a completely different, absurd figures that the independent candidate was getting around about 40, 38 something, and the opposite party, Pakistan Muslim League Noon candidate was getting 42,000. What record was available with us at the our office was that candidate was only getting 26,000 votes. So there was no
Yeah.
question. There's no question. Even if
So,
I got sent in my metric exam in mathematics, so I 100 out of 100. So I don't think so. I'm so mathematics that I can do 176.
so
And I was shocked.
it is very concerning. Dr. Khan, did you hear what Dr. Waqar Aftab has just simply said? I mean, it's very concerning. As you rightly say, the system is there. There is an evidence in the form of Form 45, which is duly signed by the concerned authority. But then after some time, some mysterious pause, the returning officer, or ROs as they called, they calculate or miscalculate deliberately or by any coercion, and they come up and give a totally different result. So, Dr. Khan, you've been a humanitarian, a leader, and you have a very strong political voice as well. So, what do you make of this kind of a system where certain individual can really move the way the election result come up, and with impunity, without any accountability? Sorry, we cannot hear you, Dr. Khan. We cannot hear you. Yeah, sorry.
Ji,
Yeah, please come again. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Waislam.
The most important thing is, first I will introduce myself. I'm director of Citizens Against State Torture with the name of CAST, and we have submitted a case to United Nations Human Rights Rapporteur on Monday the 5th, and we held our press conference in Bindsman Law Firm in London on Tuesday the 6th. So you can Google us, www.citizensagainststatetorture.co.uk. Now, coming to your question, we never had any doubt about this. This has been going on in the country for 30, 40 years. But you have to give credit to one man whose persistence has finally exposed this, and whose sixth prophecy has also come true, which he had said PTI will win the elections. And he has demonstrated to the whole world that, that he has given people what we call shawoor to the whole nation. And they have come out in drones and drones, and they have taken their vote and they have given it to Khan, to PTI. You have seen the, I'm sure, P45s of Dr. Yasmin Rashid going around. Somebody has sent it to me. Nawaz Sharif lost badly in those P45. So we had no doubt that this will happen, but we are prepared for it. And what Dr. Saiba was saying something before she left, that it's time for the political parties to sit down. Khan Sahib has always been ready to sit down with anybody, but he will never sit down with the corrupt in the party. There are good people in Muslim League also and People's Party also. If they want to come, Khan Sahib will sit down with it. But if people think that for the sake of country, he will sit down with men like Nawaz Sharif and Zardari, or Bilawal and Nawaz Sharif's daughter, or Shahbaz Sharif, this will never happen. The guy has given his family, life, everything for this country, and he's not going to do that now. Let the country go to the dogs.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Khan, for introducing
Thank you
that.
very much.
Yeah, we have tried to get people from Pakistan Muslim League and other parties. They haven't been able to join, so I cannot comment on the veracity of point that you have raised. But however, one thing is really certain, that there have been issues about the transparency of the election from the very beginning, and people have been raising the issues about it for quite some time. And the other thing that what we have noticed is that the multitudes actually turned up to cast their votes. So I'll ask Waqar Aftab. Waqar, could you please tell us the turnover of people? And I know that there was a youth bulge. 46% of the people of Pakistan are below the age of 35.
Of course, of course. I can approximately, I would say, 20 to 30% of the votes were casted by the youth.
Okay.
And almost what I could see on the roads of Rawalpindi, that was, I was sitting on Sadpur Road office. Sadpur Road is one of the, you can say, main trajectories connecting whole of the Rawalpindi, parallel to Murray Road. And it was swarming with young kids, less than, I would not see anybody above 25 moving around. All boys, young boys, girls, and they were just keen to get a flag of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and they were visiting our office on the election day after casting their vote. They would just come up and like to have a flag and just roam about in the city. Rawalpindi was, I'm clear in my mind, it was just taken over by the youth, and luckily, nothing bad happened. They did not, they just hooted to the other party, the Muslim League known, even the other Jamaat-e-Islami was there. But by the time the results started coming around 10 p.m., the Pakistan Muslim League known office was silent. There was no celebration there. Everything, they had already accepted the results. Somehow, after 10 p.m., things started moving just ridiculously. Form 45 was with everybody, so they had realized what has happened. They have been rejected by the people, so they had accepted it. But somehow, after 12 midnight, even at the RO office, which we visited twice, once at around 12 midnight, then again at around about 3 a.m., things started changing. The attitude of the RO towards us, he did not allow us to even enter the compound. He just told us to go to the media room and see the TVs which were installed, which was supposed to give the data being entered by the ROs. And after, I think, 12:30 at midnight, they just blank. Nothing was coming up. We sat there for 2-3 hours. Then they sent the police around and asked us to leave the premises. Otherwise, we will be taken straight to the lockup. And we had no choice but to leave. Now, most of the candidates who have the Form 45s are going to the courts. And now it is all depends on the courts. And as you are based in the UK, at this time I would like to just quote what Winston Churchill said to the war cabinet during the Second World War, that if the courts are working and people are getting justice, we'll rise from the ashes. But unfortunately, this is not true for Pakistan even now in 2024. Yeah. If the courts are delivering, I don't think so there will be any problem.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Waqar, that unfortunately all of this rigging and these atrocities and this oppression and wrongdoing, eventually they have to come to the courts. And there has to be a rule of law. For any civic society, any civil society, any modern society, it resides on the fundamentals of the justice and rule of law. We've been just joined by Amir Khan, and we would like to invite him into this discussion. Thank you, Amir Khan, for joining us, and nice to see you again. Before you joined, we were discussing with Waqar Aftab, who's a member of civil society from Islamabad, and who was telling us his first-hand experience of the events of the election that happened post-election. And frankly speaking, we are very upset and perturbed that so many human rights violation, injustices, and frankly, rigging of the elections going on. So we wanted to hear from you your take on it.
Okay, I have always said one thing, my friend, and that is that Pakistani elections can only be looked at in a Pakistani context. You cannot set it against any ideal that resides outside of Pakistan. That is what we have seen. This is the 9th election I've covered as a journalist. I cannot recall a single election which was held in a completely free and fair environment in which the kind of a political environment during an election that one is used to in places such as the UK, for example. I have voted there as well. I've been there, lived there as well. And I voted not in one, but in more than one elections there also. I follow the American election as well. So the kind of an environment that exists out of Pakistan, I think we cannot draw. Ideally, we should, but I think it would only give us half the picture if we try and compare a Pakistani election against ideals drawn from an environment outside of Pakistan. Now, if you compare it within what we have seen over the last 8 elections, what I have seen as a journalist in the last 8 elections in Pakistan, absolutely no question about there being a concerted exercise involving all state institutions in putting down one party and making it as incapable of contesting an election as is possible without actually declaring that party not fit to be any, not even able to field independent candidates, right? So everything was done. On the polling day, we've all had different experiences. I have voted in this election. I've been talking non-stop over the last 3-4 days with loads of people who've voted in this election. I have also been in contact with the Election Commission officials, and I want to make it absolutely clear that there is no way that we can call this election an impartial or a transparent election. But to draw the conclusion that everything about this election is wrong, I would very strongly disagree with that. If it was, and we have seen it in the past, we've seen it in 1990, we saw it in 2002, we saw it in 2018. If things were massively wrong, if a party's mandate was completely being overturned, that is what happens when that is what we saw happening in 1990, in 2002, and 2018, right? Here, the attempt was to stop a party from walking away or stop the candidates backed by a particular party, backed by Tariq-e-Insaf, walking away with a kind of a majority which then cannot be managed, especially if the state has already made up its mind that this party is not going to be allowed back into governance. Having said that, it was an astonishing result in that the people's vote still mattered. They were still able to demonstrate through the power of the vote how strongly they disagree with the state's policies. And that is something, my friend, I have never seen in Pakistan before.
Yeah, well, thank you for your really a very comprehensive analysis, but only because Pakistan is Pakistan, but it's not in another planet. It is still within the Committee of Nations, and any good practice of democratic good practice exercised in one country should be readily available to the other countries. So only because Pakistan has marred election in the past, in 2024, I'm sorry, I have to differ with that opinion, that we have to accept it with a pinch of salt, because that.
But in that case, don't you think we will also have to disagree with the elections that were held in Bangladesh or the ones that are coming up in India? Then we will find it. I find it very, very difficult to agree with any election that is held outside of the UK.
Sure, sure.
I think even in the US now there is a split opinion of whether an election is completely partial, impartial, or completely transparent or not. So where does this thing stop?
You're right. You see, it is the degree, the blatancy of actually cornering a particular party that we have seen in this election, that was unheard of. You know, in the other elections, people were able to go to the polling stations, and reasonable results were there. But this is what all the pundits and people from all over the world they're commenting on. It is the degree and the severity of one-sidedness of this election and cornering a particular party that we are
With
talking
due
about.
Yeah, with due respect to your views, I would again beg to differ here. I think people have a very short memory when it comes to elections. We have had an election where one leader was sent into exile. His party was smashed to create a new King's Party. And even those who were still left with that party and actually managed to enter this election, now many of them as independent candidates because they were not allowed to enter as a party as party candidates, even their voters were harassed, even their voters were picked up. They were not even allowed to approach the polling stations. And the result was that from a two-thirds majority in its earlier outing, it was reduced to a mere 14 seats in the National Assembly. We've also had an election where the leader of one of the largest parties and a party expected to win that election was assassinated ahead of this election.
Yes,
I think people have a very short memory.
certainly.
My issue is not with the proposition that this election was rigged. There was pre-poll rigging and there was probably post-counting rigging also.
Yes.
My issue is not with that. My issue is with the blanket nature of the statement that is being made about this election, that it is unprecedented and these things have never happened in Pakistani history before. I have lived here all my life. I have seen all 8 elections in the past, which is why I must make a point to differ with this kind of a blanket assessment of this election.
Sure. No, that's not what really I meant. I apologize if I gave that impression, but that's not what I meant. You're absolutely right that all elections in Pakistan there was some kind of political engineering and some kind, and that is the unfortunately anathema of the fledgling democracies or young nations or nations where there has been so much of intrusion by what I call elephant in the room. The issue is this, that the politicians time and again they were cornered into or herded into a very small political space, and nobody talks about the elephant in the room. And I think that is where the rational and critical debate needs to happen, and happen again and again, whether it is in Pakistan or wherever, because I absolutely agree that Mr. Nawaz Sharif of Pakistan Muslim League and Pakistan People's Party, they also suffered hugely. But I suppose this is the time now, because this is the time of social media. What has changed the situation is the social media, and that is where a country needs to think what it is going to. Let me go back to...
Allow me a minute. Yeah,
yes,
allow
sure.
me a minute to focus on the positives coming out of this election, right?
Yes,
a huge positive is that the Pakistani establishment, in particular the Pakistani military, has never ever faced a situation where they are having to deal with an expression of discontent with their policies through a public vote. That's a massive positive for a country like Pakistan. This vote is purely a pro-Imran Khan vote. It is overwhelming. It is unambiguous. And this is a situation which our army has never ever faced before. And it is a situation where it will not be brushed under the carpet. You cannot steal a mandate. The manner in which this mandate has been delivered, it has made it almost impossible for PMLN and to PPP and for the PPP to form a government without taking into account the public expression that was all in favor of Tariq-e-Insaf making a government. That is a massive positive coming out of it. Also, if you look at the election results, it's not that Tariq-e-Insaf alone has issues with the eventual numbers that are coming out. Other parties, smaller parties, including the PPP, they also have issues with the eventual numbers that have come out. And we expect that out of the 265 seats that are contested, about 25 to 30 results will either be contested, will be in front of the returning officers, where they will have to ask for a recount, or the matter will go to election tribunal, and eventually, if it is not resolved there, to the courts. And the courts will have to take a decision on those based on whatever evidence they are presented with. So I think as an assertion of popular vote, this election is indeed unprecedented. And like I said, the biggest positive that has come out of it, that it's a signal to, and you know, in Pakistan, it's no longer elephant in the room. People talk openly about it on the local media. And not just the social media, but also the mainstream media. And this is something that the army has to consider, where its policies are being directly rejected through a popular vote by the people of Pakistan. That's a massive plus.
You heard what Amir Khan said, and obviously there's a positivity that the nation has
Okay,
risen, people have
I would
spoken.
like to disagree with him.
Okay, yeah,
Almost, it has local media by the PTI current chairman that they are going to contest 56 seats at the level of National Assembly. They have already announced that, Barrister Gohar has already announced that. And the other thing is, we have got very short memory. As I told you, we are 60 years old now. The same thing happened in 1960, late 1960s. That military regime was taken by the response of the public, and they just mishandled the issue, which resulted into the formation of Bangladesh. And we forget that very easily because that history has not been told, or it doesn't come on local media. As Mr. Amir Khan has mentioned, that this is an overwhelming vote in favor of Tehreek-e-Insaf. There are many things which we have forgotten from the late 60s debacle. We should realize that the military mishandled that issue, and let's hope and pray they don't do it again in 2024. That's my
yeah, good.
body to
Thank you.
with Mr. Khan. It has happened. This is the second time it's happening, and if he wants, I would like to go back to the government of Mr. Bora, Muhammad Ali Bora, and Sonwardi, which were
Yes,
removed very disgracefully.
unceremoniously.
And
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
all keep that in mind. In the last 77 years, we have many examples when the popular vote was just, bulldozed over. And let's hope and pray the insanity doesn't prevail again. And sanity comes back into the senses of the establishment.
yeah. Okay, thank you. Amir, I'll give you 1 minute to respond, but before that, I'll just simply say that uh, from my point of view, what I feel is that the issue is the healthy balance between civil and military relationship in Pakistan. We love our army. Every country needs an army. Pakistan is a very patriotic nation. It is the outgrowth of that military power over the civil power which has been causing the trouble throughout. But the positive, as you rightly said, Amir Khan, that a vast majority of people have come up, especially youth, and they have actually broken the shackles of control. You know, as they say, if you want to see, if you want to see who controls you, look around the one you cannot criticize. And the good thing is that the criticism or critique, it has started. So, do you think this new formed sovereignty of the opinion of people, it has galvanized the future of Pakistan, Amir?
Well, you see, we have seen many instances in Pakistan in the past where we've heard people saying that, oh, this is a turning point from Pakistan. And I've always held that Pakistan is one of those exceptionally lucky countries that keeps getting a turning point every few years or so. But its problem is that it takes whenever it comes to a turning point, it takes a full 360-degree turn and end up at square one every time. This time, however, I do feel very optimistic. I do think that things are going to be different because I disagree a bit with my friend Vakan when he says that we seem to have forgotten the lessons of the 1970. I think it is precisely because the people who matter. Generally, we don't talk about Bangladesh. It is dropped out from our history. So I don't expect a nation, the people in general, where 70% of the population is below 35 years of age, to even remember an event that happened long before they were born. But the people who matter, I think it is still a very strong memory in their minds, which is why we have seen that whatever you say about the environment, it could not be tightened up enough to stop the people from expressing their political will completely, as we have seen happening in the past. I think the fear within the establishment was that if they come down too hard, excessively hard, then they might be facing a similar situation to the one that they faced 50 years ago when East and West Pakistan existed as Pakistan in totality. So I think that realization is also there, and a lot now rests with the elected leadership, whether it's PMLN, whether it's PPP, and more importantly, whether it's PTI. And mind you, while there might have been a lot of anger in the vote that we have seen going towards Imran Khan, you will also see a lot of reservation about the way he has conducted his politics so far. So I think the future now is less, what another positive I would say from this election is that the future, which direction it takes, is now less in the hands of our traditional establishment and more in the hands of the politicians who are now the major players in what unfolds over the next 2 weeks. And I think there is a very clear recognition amongst those politicians that if they try and subvert or hijack PTI's mandate in any which way, then that is going to bring this country under the kind of stresses that had their toll way back in the 1970s.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's a wonderful summation of where we are now and what will need to happen. The good thing is this, that somehow democratic norms are returning, and the reign of the governance, or so to say, the affairs of the state are coming back in the hands of democratic forces, and because they are accountable, and hopefully that will be a good sigh of relief for the people of Pakistan. So Amir Khan, thank you very much for joining us. We really welcome you, and then we will definitely invite you on a very critical, rational debate of the way forward in our next program. Thank you. Our founding father, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, very famously said, "You give me great mothers, I'll give you a great nation." And I think a lap of a mother is the cradle of civilization, and that is where a child actually starts learning the basic value systems, the ethical and moral values that he or she carries for the rest of their lives. And we should never underestimate the role of women in any society, let alone an Islamic and a Pakistani society. So with that, I say thank you very much to all of our panelists. You have been absolutely wonderful, and I'm touched by the passion, by the sincerity of your thoughts, and the clarity of your opinions. And one thing I could see, that everybody wants the best for Pakistan, and by bringing a critique to our system does not mean that we are against any particular party or a particular institution, because it is ours. And the only fundamental and the basic rule is this, that you want to bring positivity and progress and a bright future for the people of Pakistan. With that, I thank you everybody once again, and thank you audience for watching this program. Until next, I say goodbye from our London studio at Quews.news.